And then on the 22nd, we have Jake Lupa. On the 23rd, Raimi. On the 28th, we have Lord Philip Ryzen. On the 29th, Pixel. On the 30th, Anarch Kid Ass. On November 5th, Shamika. Alright, I believe we're done putting ourselves over, no, Kalika?
We're never done putting ourselves over. Sorry, just had to say that.
Well, it was a good week for wrestling, because we are wrestling with the news. Maybe putting himself way too over, Tony Khan is when it comes to, Bryan Danielson. He did an interview earlier this week and revealed that, his last match against Okada, he lost feeling in his legs while he was kicking Okada. Explained that he went to the trainer afterward. They worked on him. He is okay. But it did stem from the neck injury that he's been dealing with, that he will eventually need surgery for. Obviously later today he'll be wrestling Jon Moxley. One might say that's not the wisest choice in the world, but what are your thoughts on Bryan Danielson dealing with all these health issues when he really doesn't have to?
I mean, the Daniel Bryan in him, or the Bryan Danielson in him, is telling him to continue on, even though, me personally, honestly, Moxley's winning, right? Right? I would think he would win tonight to get him that surgery sooner or later, because at the end of the day, his long-term health, once he leaves the ring, is more important than what he is right now.
Right.
My problem is that they gave him the title, and when they gave him the title knowing he had that lingering injury, it's not like that injury was something, you know what I mean? It's not like that was something like that just popped up.
Right.
It's been something that's been an issue, which makes me wonder their decision making, because you had the most natural one of the most over talents lose to someone, and now they're having leg injuries, and not even, not leg injuries, but it's more of a nerve injury. And this is the part where, for some odd reason, WWE, as much as, and people are going to wonder why WWE got to do with this, they proved to seem themselves right in the long term when it comes to these people and injuries, because they're like, yeah, we're not gonna do all this shit on our watch. And you wonder why WWE take the precautions that they do, because I could think of several superstars that went over there with injuries, and now it's just proven WWE right. Daniel Bryan, Saraya, maybe Edge, but Edge is kind of like a freak offish. But even then, you're just looking like, what is the disconnect between their health staff, and WWE's health staff?
No, I completely agree. Like, what doctor, what doctor in the world is saying, if you're telling somebody that you have whatever ligaments that are, injured in his neck right now that require surgery, you're losing feeling in your legs. What doctor is clearing you to wrestle? Who's saying, yeah,
no shit?
Yeah, you're fine. Put some ice on it. That doesn't sound right, right?
Well, my problem is that doctors are going to have different perspectives on how to deal with the injury. That's a given.
Right.
But the general consensus of all of these medical professionals should be the overall long-term health of the individual.
And
And that is where I'm trying to figure out, is that because it seems like AEW is having this thing where like WWE's telling these people like, yeah, you might not want to take that risk.
Right.
And for some odd reason, AEW is going like, oh yeah, that's fine. So that's where, to me, is the disconnect, because I'm thinking, and this is just me thinking, all medical records should be transferred, like transparent between
Companies.
all doctors, right?
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
So that's where, that's the disconnect. That's the perspective I'm taking it from. Not so much more Tony Khan, more so what the hell each doctor is thinking, because I'm thinking all doctors talk.
Well, you can't really assume that all doctors talk. You know, for all we know, the doctor that they have in AEW is a back alley clinic doctor. You know, 50% survival chance. Uh,
True, but all doctors leave notes when they're doing procedures and they're doing things. So that's where, because even if that individual, so say, and I can only put myself in for me, my medical record, because I'm a veteran, when I go to a private doctor, all that flows through. So they see a history. You know what I'm saying?
right.
So when they're making their assessments, they have a history and context to make that decision from.
So, like, I get it. It's not a new phenomenon for wrestlers to work hard.
Hurt, yeah,
Yeah,
it's not a new
and
phenomenon.
that's fine. You know, all wrestlers are, but you know, when you're working injured, and some people do work injured, and you know, there has to be a stopping point at some point. You know what I mean? Well, okay, do this match and then get this fucking surgery. You know what I mean? Like, for
But
instance, Cody with that horrible tear he had in his
oh, the tear, he did the match and got the surgery.
yeah.
But the thing is WWE is, well, I mean, I'm assuming they're still publicly traded, so they have more of a reason to do that. Vice a Tony Khan, where he could probably be saying, "Hey, we already had this set for Wrestle Dream," rather than just because of the fact that they want to keep that story going. And Daniel Bryan is not going to stop himself.
Right.
And
And you know,
that's the biggest key.
people will hate on WWE, but you know, most of the times they do save these wrestlers from themselves because they don't have breaks when it comes to these things. You know, they have to automatically stop it. And you know, just shame on Tony Khan. You know, obviously he sees the behind the scenes things that are going on with Bryan Danielson, and he's not putting his foot down. He's not saying, "Okay, this is getting dangerous. You can get severely hurt. You could be paralyzed." And
Mm-hmm.
let's let's look at it from a different perspective. Let's whoever you have to trust the person you're in the ring with. If Bryan
Yep.
Danielson isn't, you know, if he loses feeling when, you know, he's hold grabbing somebody, he could really hurt somebody as well, and he could paralyze them because he wanted to muscle through a match. I don't think
Yep.
that's necessarily right. You're putting two individuals at jeopardy for the sake of one, and
Yep.
I don't think that's right.
Totally true.
Well,
Totally true. And to put it in perspective, when you think of, and when I think of a person who wrestled injured, it was for WWE, Seth Rollins. Do you know how much precaution that they went through to make sure that it couldn't go worse than what it already is for him to perform what he performed?
oh yeah, and you're absolutely
So
right.
that, and And that's the dichotomy I'm looking at. Because I'm looking at Seth, who wrestled 2 times in one night with a torn meniscus, but they literally took 2-3 months, even though he had the title. He had the title.
He did.
And they literally went through it and was like, okay, let's make sure, okay, is it not going to get worse than what it is? Can we, when you get the surgery, how long it's going to take, and so on and so forth. So they went through all of the worst case scenarios before, to save him from himself, before they gave him the blessing, vice this. And that's, to me, is like, because I'm looking at it apples, that's an apples to apples comparison that no one can like dispute, right?
You could correct me if I'm wrong here, but between getting injured, which was the Jinder Mahal match in January, I think January 1st, to WrestleMania 41, Night 1, how many matches did Seth Rollins have?
None. Barely any.
And between WrestleMania 41 to now, he's only had one match with Damian Priest.
Right.
And you could really say that match really protected Rollins.
Like, yeah, because of the Drew cash-in, the CM Punk, and that's my point. They literally included him, and even though they knew he wasn't going to save himself from himself, and they kind of, I can say that they kind of pushed him into it, but they pushed him into it for the sake of a storyline. And when they did it, they had enough shit going on around him to where he didn't have to exert himself too much. And then by the time he got to SummerSlam, he's a special guest referee. So all this time, he only had, 3 matches in 9 months, in which he's just sitting there recovering. And by the time he's back now, he's good.
More or less, yeah. I think he's going to start a program with Bronson Reed.
Yeah, and then after Bronson Reed? Guess who? CM Punk. So it protected him. It kept him relevant in those months, even though he was injured, because they protected the injury and they looked at it from the long-term perspective. And that's what I'm trying to figure out why. And this is where I think they need people in there to tell these people no in AEW.
Right. And unfortunately, Tony Khan isn't going to be that person. So it doesn't seem like it is going to happen. But I just pray that he has he has enough sense in his head to say, let's have a safe match at Wrestle Dream, and God willing,
nope. It's in his hometown. He is not. It's in his home state. He is not fucking. If this is his last match, you think he's not gonna go balls to the wall?
I know and that's right, that's what pisses me off.
Yeah, that's my point. If this is if this is truly the last match for Daniel Bryan this year, and it is in his hometown, and he's walking in as champion, he's leaving with a bang.
Well, God willing, he doesn't leave on a stretcher. And
that's the key. That is the key.
Hopefully, he'll get that fucking surgery after this match.
I mean, I hope he just gets the surgery just for his health, not. I mean, because he's always been candid in interviews about like having aches and pains while playing with his kid, and it's like, dude, you gotta. As much as we love you, and this is just me being the wrestling guy in me, the wrestling fan in me, dude, I would love to see you wrestle, but I also would love to see you live, because we lost a lot of talent this year.
Oh yeah.
And to me, that means more important to me to have you live to tell the story than trying to prove a point that you still got it.
Agreed, and I wasn't coming from a perspective of get the surgery so you could wrestle again. I was coming from the perspective of you're exactly that. You need to live. You know, you're putting your health in major jeopardy here.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
hopefully he will, and he'll prove us all wrong. So yeah, I think that will be enough on this topic for a moment. Um, keeping up
And
with like really bad news. Um, Kill Switch, Luchasaurus, whatever you want to call him. Um, he's on the he's on the shelf. For a good portion of time. He was hospitalized a couple weeks ago. With pneumonia in both lungs. And apparently it caused permanent damage to him. And he's going to be out for quite some time, and possibly ever. This could be from what I'm hearing. This could be a potentially career-ending problem for him.
hmm
What?
I mean,
Yeah. Continue.
this is another part, man. It's just, dude. It From what I've seen, it deals with like a immune issue with sleep apnea, and sleep apnea is not a joke. And considering it's kind of crazy to me like that becomes an issue for a wrestler who for the most part is, I mean, AEW, let's be honest, it's just a television show. They're not really doing road shows. It's not like they're going around doing house shows every week.
True.
So to me this is mind-boggling. I just hope he gets better. um Sleep apnea is something that, yeah, it's hard to deal with. And if he's having pneumonia with it, it literally can be deadly because pneumonia is basically fluid in your lungs. And sleep apnea, you're practically like not getting enough oxygen to sleep. So it's a double whammy. And I just hope he gets soup. I mean, just take your time, dude. Get better.
I agree. Hopefully he has a full recovery. Um, if we do see him back in the ring, that would be great. Um, out of all the wrestlers and AEW in general that I dislike, Luchasaurus was never really one of them. I always felt like he was a solid wrestler. From what I hear, he's a good guy. Um, so if this is the last we've heard of him, then that really sucks. But your health first for sure. But if he can make a recovery, that would be great as well. Um, I mean, a return to the ring, that is. But it does look like he has a long journey ahead of him. Obviously, not injury related, health issues, so we can't necessarily blame Tony Khan for this.
That is true. And to put this in perspective, that dude is 1 year younger than me.
Hmm. I didn't know he was that
Which
old.
I do. I mean, most wrestlers, I mean, if they're been with the exception of certain talent like Private Party, who finally came out from the milk carton, but 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 most of them, you hit your peak in your 40s as a wrestler because you know how to work smart instead of smart working hard.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, um, for some apparent reason, Dynamite was on a Tuesday this last week, and it went head to head with NXT, and NXT whooped that trick. Um,
Yeet.
NXT
had to put it in there.
NXT did a 0.24, while AEW did a 0.10, so a large margin. Just
I'm,
interesting
I'm
that this is basically NXT's skeleton crew at this point, and they they did so much better than AEW when they have all these stars.
well, I read somewhere that NXT did better than all three of AEW shows combined.
Oh wow, I did not see that.
As far as like ratings and the demo, which I'm like, holy shit. Granted, NXT had Jey Uso, Randy Orton, Belair, Cargill. You know what I'm saying? They pretty much brought guns out for the show. But that doesn't change the fact that, I mean, there's a certain formula in order to do it. And for better or for worse, WWE's formulas works. Uh, I mean, I'll tell you this: the sexy red Ethan Page thing was fucking huge in Twitterland because Ethan Page is seen as a national hero at this point.
What happened between Sexy Red and Eden Page?
Oh well. NXT they had Sexy Red perform and
Yeah.
Ethan Page interrupted the performance and told her that her ish is canceled. Her performance was canceled, and he proceeded to continue by like mocking Sexy Red on Twitter, in which he turned himself from a heel to a national hero because yeah, I mean, he's my hero. I never really was a Sexy Red guy, but yeah, he I mean, I'm just saying that alone and that engagement is huge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's for better or for worse, WWE knows how to pull it. And I guess it's not I'm trying to figure out why AEW get hip hop stars and stuff like that. So what is the disconnect
Um,
between those two?
it's just like it, wrestling. That's what wrestling's never really been about the wrestling. It's about the stories, and the you tell that story in the ring. But if you don't have that story to tell in the ring and you just do matches, then what is really the point? And that's kind of been AEW's MO. They just give you matches. But it's just I find it so interesting that this is not the best version of NXT we've ever had. And not only did they beat AEW, but it was by a large margin as well. But then again, I guess they didn't. Back then, they didn't have Nikita Lyons and Titties be accompanied by Cora Jade.
I mean that and Julia and Stephanie Vacour and
Yep.
Kalani Jordan. I'm just gonna tell you right now, Shawn Michaels might be the MVP of NXT because he out here signing dimes to them. Boy, woo, woo.
Yeah.
He knows how to find them chicks, boy. I'm like, God damn.
NXT, we have the cake.
I mean, they got more than cakes. Cakes, flapjacks. I mean, whatever you want. They got they like the Jack in the Box. They're the Jack in the Box of the women's division. Whatever you want, they got.
A wide variety of everything you love.
Yep, sexy Latinas, we got you. Blacks, yeah, we got it. Whites, oh hell yeah, we got it. Yeah, I mean they got it all.
And obviously, people are going to make excuses that AEW wasn't on, on their usual day, their usual time, so that played a factor. Um, and it quite possibly could, but how much of a difference could it have made? You know what I mean?
It not that big of a deal because if when AEW was beating NXT, it wasn't like they were going, oh yeah, it's just developmental. You can't have it both ways. You can't say in one breath, oh yeah, AEW so better, and then go, oh, they're only going out because they got all these stars. Like
Yeah.
you can't pull, what I'm saying? You can't pull both sides of your ass on that one.
Well, speaking of both sides of the ass, at that blood earlier this week, it was announced that the next Crown Jewel event will feature the first ever Crown Jewel Saudi Arabia champion, which will feature Cody Rhodes versus Gunter for the Crown Jewel Championship, and what is her name? Liv Morgan versus Nia Jax. For on the women's side, Cody Rhodes and Gunter, the world champions of each of their brands, and Liv and Nia as well. Um, I I'm not quite sure how to feel about it. It kind of makes sense, but it also kind of doesn't make sense. It kind of seems like they're not treating the Saudi Arabia shows as a part of the WWE a continued storyline. It's kind of back to, okay, well, we're doing these live events in Saudi Arabia. Did you get that feeling, or what was your thoughts on it?
To be quite honest, ever since they've been in Saudi Arabia, it's never been a continuation of the storyline. When has there ever been a show in Saudi Arabia where it continued on to the States? Which honestly, it kind of serves as an advantage, and the only reason I say it serves as an advantage because it gives that reprieve for those storylines when they pick back up.
I mean, for the last couple of years, like Crown Jewel was an established paid preview that they did in Saudi Arabia. Um, they were there some wonky matchups, yeah, but I mean, Edge and Seth Rollins had a Hell in a Cell in Saudi Arabia, which was a continuation of their SummerSlam match. Um, they and Elimination Chamber was their last year, I want to say. So I mean, they a lot of there has been continuity with their storylines there, but it seems like
Continuity.
continuity. Thank you. But I don't think that I think they're pulling away from that and just kind of treating it like a special live event.
It is. Is honestly, it is a special. It's just a Saudi Arabia WrestleMania. Let's go there and get our. Because keep in mind, Saudi Arabia was out there asking for Andre the Giant and Yokozuna. Come on, man. Like
Yep.
let let's keep it a stack. Like,
What do you think about
so
this?
it's not.
Yep.
It's not like they sitting up there keeping up with what's going on in the climate.
True. What do you think about this new title that they made?
I, I think it's just a personally, it seems like it's a little. It screams just one time title, unless it's just a universal Saudi Arabia championship to wrestle for to keep titles with storylines, right?
Yeah.
Because the only reason I see Gunther Cody going because it's a callback to the Rumble, but Liv and Nia are literally two heels fighting for the title.
Yeah, but and we'll get into this another time. But I think having Liv and Nia wrestle is actually the perfect catalyst to start the Tiffany Stratton Nia Jax rivalry because Nia was saying, you know, when once I destroy Liv, you could cash in and win the championship against Liv. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think that Tiffy's gonna cash in on Nia, and they'll jumpstart that rivalry. That's the only thing I could really see coming out of a Nia Jax Liv Morgan rivalry at this point.
Yeah, the continuation of their storyline. I could also kind of see Rhea fucking it up for everybody. Um,
Hmm. I mean,
and
yeah,
and and I see Bailey going with, I mean, the whole Naomi don't trust Bailey type deal. I see that at angle, but yeah, you're right. The main star of the show is the Tiffy Nia Jax line.
the other opposite end of that spectrum, I don't really see where it serves Gunter wrestling Cody, and I don't see where it serves Cody wrestling Gunter at this point. It's really only, a pause of what's going on in the current storylines.
Depends on what Kevin does.
Um, yeah, I get that, but it doesn't give Kevin a title match. He's not
It
wrestling.
doesn't get
I mean, it doesn't need
it
to be that, but it has nothing to do with him. What's going on?
true, but I also see. Remember what I was telling you about the whole Kevin thing? It wasn't about. It's all about perspective.
Right.
And Kevin has a history of being that petty.
It's hilarious. Like we were just having this conversation like a month ago, where they had the match in Germany, and I was like, I like bad guy Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is a better bad guy, and finally they pulled the trigger on it.
Well, it was pulled in the right manner, and
Right.
it was pulled in and it was pulled in a perspective. And I keep telling people this: the new formula for WWE is not about good guy, bad guy. It's about perspectives.
Right.
Because I can 100% see Kevin Owens' perspective on this shit.
Yeah.
Because if you did all this shit for your friend and you see him team with the motherfucker, it's almost like you helping the motherfucker get a promotion, and then he goes back and help the motherfucker that you helped him beat to get the promotion instead of you. Like, bitch, I'd be mad too. So I get it.
It's
So that's what I'm telling you. These stories, and that's where I like Triple H's formula with this, because everything is just, it's not about a good or bad, because to be quite honest, there's a good and bad in all of us. It's just a matter of which side you see it on that day.
Speaking of good and bad, it was teased at Bad Blood. And just for everybody to know, we are doing a full review of the show in a couple minutes. We're just getting to
Oh hell yeah,
the
that
show.
show was fucking
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll get to it, but we're just talking about the rumors that kind of came out of it, and some things that happen, in between as well. Um, it is heavily rumored now that Gunter will be wrestling Goldberg at some point down the road.
Oh
Possibly
god.
WrestleMania. I can understand where that's a big match for Goldberg, but does it really solve Gunter any purpose losing to Goldberg in 45 seconds.
Gunter's not losing to Goldberg. I think WrestleMania would be better served Gunther Brock.
I mean, that was
And
the
that's a
original
pipe,
plan.
and that is a hell of a pipe dream because we know with Brock.
Right.
So
I mean, we were originally going to get Brock and Gunter, but, obviously things prevented that from happening.
yeah, owner defecating on bitches, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
We'll see. Until it's written in stone, it's a rumor. I'll leave it at that because I'm gonna give them the fact that until it's written in stone, the only match that I know for damn sure that I mean the only match that I know for sure is gonna go down is Punk's Rollins. I know that for 100% of a fact that match is gonna happen.
Kind of a makeup from last year.
I mean, because the way it's being sprinkled in.
Yeah.
Because it's funny, Rollins leaves. Rollins gets taken out by Bronson as he was about to fight Punk, and then Punk just got done with Drew. But now he's going on a little injury reprieve, and Rollins is like, "Fuck you, I'm back." So it that I know for without a doubt in my mind that's happening at Mania. And whoever else John Cena is going to wrestle, which maybe is Orton, who knows. But end of an era part 35.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll hold on the Gunther Goldberg thing. I think it was just probably an ATL thing because for those who may not know, those wrestlers, Goldberg not only played for the Georgia Bulldogs, he was also an Atlanta Falcon. You can't get more Georgia than that. So that's why I think they were just kind of giving him his due there. But
Right.
yeah, until it's in stone, I don't see it happening.
Well, we're talking. You brought up, allegations, things of that nature. Did you happen to catch the McMahon documentary?
No, because I was catching up on the CM Punk shit. Had to catch up on that ATL fucking show. Like, man.
Fair enough. Um, but it was. Maybe this is interesting. Maybe it isn't. But Janelle Grant, back in the news. Her representation is asking for WWE uh, to drop all of the NDAs that are in that were made in WWE. Um, so the other supposedly the other victims of Vince McMahon could come forward without facing repercussion. WWE has not responded to those um, those wishes by Janelle Grant. I do feel
I
like
mean,
that it's kind of like opening a can of worms because, even though, yeah, there's probably some NDAs that are, about Vince McMahon and that, but I'm sure that there are other NDAs not concerning that they don't want in the public disclosure. You know what I mean?
well, the NDA is only. Here's the thing: they can't. I see why they're saying they want it unreleased, but and I'm not a lawyer, but I can only assume if they accepted the terms and the deals and accepted the money with the NDAs, then the NDA has to be enforced.
Okay. Well, no, what they're saying because uh, there are NDAs within WWE, the company, and that they should drop the NDAs to allow the victims to come forward if there are any.
But here's and this is where I need some legalese on this, because if that's the case, then what's to keep the company from going, give me my money back? Because that was the whole point of the NDA.
True. I mean, yeah. Well,
It's sticky. It's sticky. It is sticky.
for more reasons than one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We're probably not the best show to cover this because you're not a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer. Um, I don't think you've been
I know.
sued.
I know some lawyers. I can ask.
Okay, well, maybe, yeah.
Wrestling with Law and Order. Dear, 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 dear.
Produced by Dick Wolf.
You know what I'm saying? Get some Dick Wolf in this bitch.
Maybe a legal problem, maybe not. Definitely not. During the press conference for WWE Bad Blood, Triple H did speak to the press.
Catch some hell. Cause some hell.
And it was somebody asked him that there has not been a black superstar on a PLE in 3 months, and there were no black representation on Bad Blood. I'll let you just go first.
Okay. I will start by saying this. Yes, did it seem to come off a bit tone deaf? Yeah, it could have. I also understood where he was trying to come from, in the sense that he's trying to go with what's the hottest storyline and what is trying to get things to get pushed further. And you do see why he did that thing on NXT to prove a point, right?
Right.
The Kalani, Trick Williams, Cargill, Bianca, Jay championship moment. That was to prove a point. To me, I get where Triple H is trying to come from. I just wish he had said his words better. Because when people say, because when you hear the term "I don't see color," it's almost in the sense that it's like Brandy Rhodes when she said "I don't see color." It's like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what do you do when people say "I don't see color"? I'm like, man, what do you do at a red light? Because you stop. Not because it means stop. You stop because the color red indicates for you to stop, right?
Okay.
So I get the people's being pissed about the tone deafness of Triple H, right? And it doesn't help in regards to his history, mainly one with Booker T for WrestleMania 19. So I get where it's placating to a lot of that. I totally understand that. With that being said, yes, he could have had more prominent storylines in the sense of having black wrestlers be represented and being included in some of these hot storylines. However, that's not how always it goes, man. Like, I can say, how many times have he tried with that LWO fucking Rey Mysterio line and nobody's buying it? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He's been dragging that to death. It felt like it was like ad nauseum. And I'm not saying that to say like this to be his saving grace, but to say that he doesn't have storylines where it includes people of color or Latin communities is kind of asinine, because we all know that the Jade Cargill Bianca thing is gonna happen. It's just a matter of,
right.
are you really wanting it to happen right now, or do you really want it to happen at WrestleMania? More than likely, you're wanting it to happen at WrestleMania. So in order for that to happen at WrestleMania, you have to put it on the back burner until Royal Rumble. I
Right.
mean, to be quite honest. And then technically, the whole Cody Rhodes, he's technically black anyway.
Very true.
Hotep Cody. Hotep Cody getting HBCUs and shit to come on the but but okay, let me stop. But in all seriousness, I get people's concern over the tone deafness, and he should have been more cognizant of that. And I think he did that whole thing on NXT on purpose to show that he could have been more cognitive of that, because otherwise, why would you go out of your way to put that many champions in one stage and have like a mini curtain call? But yeah, I think he's just cooking with what storylines are going hot right now and figuring out what's going to happen at Mania. I mean,
So, yeah, continue.
I mean, because here's my thing when I say, and it's gonna sound crazy, but other than Bianca and Jade, and people swearing that the Profits need to break up, what other storyline are you gonna put in with African American artists or wrestlers? I mean, they could have put the triple threat that happened on SmackDown on a PLE.
Right, and that's kind of where, uh, first and foremost, WWE has definitely cut back when it comes to their their PLEs. We only get 5 matches per PLE. So, like, your story really has to be important to be on that PLE. The ones. So, if we got 6 to 7 matches, then there would be no doubt that you would see the Street Profits, a Carmelo Hayes, maybe even New Day on those shows. But because they're keeping these shows so tight, and they just want to tell that story long form rather than short form like you get on Raw or SmackDown. That's kind of where you're missing, those wrestlers, because there would have definitely been a spot for any of them at this time, by this time, I would say.
I mean, I think so. Like, prime example, like the number one storyline that's involving anyone of African American is basically the New Day, and it's trickling through Raw. So the thing is this: do you see that as a PLE storyline?
I really wouldn't say that it's a PLE storyline unless Big E comes back and you know squashes everything. Then no, I say that it's just a Raw storyline. I mean, it could
Right.
have been a PLE storyline maybe a couple of years ago when they did more, PLEs, but more matches on PLEs. But nowadays, no, I don't see it fitting.
Right. So that's the point that I'm trying to emphasize. It's like, we've always known that this format was going to be the format for NXT, like 5 matches, and the most important storylines go on, and then you let every other story play out through through TV, Raw and SmackDown. Because if that's the case, then everybody should just be pissed that the Wyatt Six ain't on no PLEs.
True. Um, when it comes to diversity with on the women's side, I don't see
It's there.
it's there.
It is there.
We
It's there.
You got Bianca, you got Jade, and I mean, you could say Jade isn't there yet, which she isn't, but you know that she is eventually. They're building
Bianca,
her.
Jade, Kalani,
No, Naomi,
uh, Naomi, Naya,
but
Bailey.
on the men's side of things, we lost. They lost their biggest black wrestler. They lost Bobby
Bobby
Lashley.
Lashley.
Yeah, there is no more Big E. I mean, it's not to say that he won't come back, but we don't have Big E. And so there aren't. I mean, I like Carmelo, but he's not there yet when it comes to being a major star. And I mean, who else is there? And obviously, the New Day's established. There's no issues there. Um, so like on the men's side, other than Carmelo, who are you necessarily going to push into that role? You know what I mean?
And that's the point I'm making because Melo is not there yet. The Profits are a great tag team, but I know that they're keeping the tag titles on the Bloodline to keep the Bloodline in in that in that sequence, right?
And they're not
Uh
really showcasing tag teams on PLEs at this time.
oh hell no. Jesus Christ no.
Like that ladder match on SmackDown, that would have been a sixth match on a PLE maybe 5 years ago.
Yep.
Not anymore.
And I get why they're doing it because the thing is this, not every story needs to be concluded at once. And this is the formula that I like
Right.
because everybody is so used to everything getting done now
Right.
rather than every story should be done immediately. And that's not the case. Some stories are going to conclude and it's very staggered. And the only reason and to me, I think it truly works because I can only look at it from one storyline that's been ran through for an entire year and it's had staggered layers and it's still spawning off different rivalries. And I mean, you could think of two storylines with that. And that's the CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Seth part, the Cody Roman part.
Yeah.
Seth and Punk, Punk came back. Seth and Drew didn't like it. Drew injures Punk. Punk and Rollins still going at it. All three of them are entangled. Somehow Bronson Reed comes in, staggers it, makes it a stagger thing, so where Punk and Drew could finish it. And now Punk and Drew is finished, but now Seth and Bronson got to finish. So when Seth and Bronson's finished, Punk and Seth can get it. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's and that's the one thing I love about wrestling now is that it is such a butterfly effect, how one person's action affects everything else around him. And that is the true hallmark of wrestling. Like Cody's decision to side with Roman, even though he's been fucking trying to get rid of him for the better year, is costing him a friendship that he built within a year with Kevin Owens. Do you see? Like,
Yeah.
that is the stuff that is like, that matters to me. I mean, to me as a wrestling fan, I've never been more intrigued in wrestling than now because everything is just connecting.
Oh yeah.
It's all connecting. It's all connecting.
So I definitely, could they have, when it comes to diversity in WWE, could they have more black stars? Yeah, clearly they don't have Big E, they don't have Bobby Lashley. They tried to get Trick. No, not Trick. Swerve. They tried to get Swerve. Swerve stayed with the company, with AEW.
And
Um,
even then, they tried to get Swerve with Hit Row, and he just so happened to get cut. Like,
yeah. So, and you know, if you watch NXT, I mean, you could literally put the tagline "full for the culture," and nobody would bat an eye at that when it comes to NXT. Um, you know, uh, Saba Odi just lost not the international, the North American Championship. Maybe he comes up and he races somehow, because I don't think you could really bat an eye at that guy and say put
He ain't it.
yeah,
That dude is it.
yeah.
That dude, he's next.
And I think, it's just a matter of telling that story, but I think that you could bring him you could no, yeah, you could put him on SmackDown tomorrow, Saba Odi. You could have put him against Cody Rhodes. He could beat Cody Rhodes, and I don't think anybody would bat an eye about that. Not for a championship, just beat Cody Rhodes. And then you have a megastar made in a minute because they pushed them. But,
Yep.
if they do that, who knows? Probably not.
I think Obafemi is gonna be the next on deck. I think they're slating him to take up where Lashley left off, because he has the size, he has
For,
the
forget Lashley. Brock Lesnar.
yeah, he's gonna be
Obafemi
he
is a
might be on
fucking
that.
Brock Lesnar.
Oh yeah, he could be the next Brock easily. So my thing is this: just because it's not happening now doesn't mean that it's not going to happen.
Right.
And I think we get caught up in this whole thing. Well, what's the point if it's not going to happen now? It's never going to happen. And it's like, yeah, it's not their time now, but that doesn't mean it'll never be their time.
Yeah, just give it a minute.
Because I mean, there is not a lack of air. They put Javion Evans against goddamn Randy Orton, for crying out loud. So they're trying to find the next crop of stars.
Oh yeah. Alright, I think that should conclude our coverage of the news. And now a quick word from our sponsors.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.